everybody, welcome back to Funny Talented Nobodies, and joining me today is one of my favorite singer-songwriters here in Vancouver, Neal Ryan.
Hello.
Yes. So when I'm working at my side hustle at the Fairmont, we're lucky enough to have him, like once a week?
Every Thursday, pretty
Every
much, yeah.
Thursday at the Fairmont Waterfront. So if you love the way he sounds, which you should because he's awesome, come down and see him. Give him tips. Not verbal tips, but like tips that are money, because we're poor and it's Vancouver. So today we're gonna sing a little bit. He's gonna sing at the end of the show one of his originals as well. But I really wanted to hear his story because he's so fucking good at what he does. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm excited to have you here.
I'm very excited to be here.
Right. Woo. So, right. So the thing about your voice, I remember the first time I ever heard you sing, I was like, so you'll all know what I'm talking about. As soon as he starts to sing, you'll be like, oh my gosh, he sounds like, right? And maybe you get that a lot.
Sound like James Taylor.
Yes.
Yeah, get that a lot.
A lot. Which is amazing. What an amazing person to sound like.
Well, it's a great icebreaker.
Right? You're
Yeah.
like, nice to meet you.
Yeah. Actually, I've had people come in and say to me that they thought James Taylor was actually playing. I was playing this private gig in West Van one time, and it was in Eagle Harbour Road, which is it's actually one of the most expensive addresses in Canada.
Wow.
So it's all on the ocean there in West Van, like where
Right.
Yeah, and it's lovely. And I was singing out the back garden, and all the neighbours, you couldn't see them. Because it's all on a ridge.
Yeah.
They were all clapping. You could hear them from a distance. And
No.
at the end of the show, when I stopped playing, they were like, "Thanks, James." They actually thought James Taylor
Oh my
was
gosh, that's amazing.
I guess there's a pro and a con, and the pros are obviously, we were just talking about the icebreaker, and it's really nice. What a nice compliment.
Right.
But also that I sound so like him at times that it's hard to break away from that in the original
fair.
stuff. So it's really pigeonholed a little bit.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's that aspect a little bit. But at this point in my career, it doesn't really matter. That's a
Kind of takes the ego out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was younger, when I lived in Nashville, I used to get Karen Carpenter all the time. Because of not how I look, but because of my vibrato and just the timbre of my voice.
Right.
No. That's what happens when you.
I didn't hear it when you were singing.
I know.
When you were just kind of like messing around there.
Yeah, my voice sounds pretty different, but that's
it
what
sounds
it
very
used to.
you actually.
Yeah. So when I was younger, back when I still had my opera training, that was in my head all the time, and I didn't control my vibrato at all. It sounded just like Karen.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's
but then I ate a lot of carbs, so I wanted to really set myself apart. Too soon? Maybe. So we're gonna sing something for you to start, and then I want to ask you about your story.
Okay.
What are we singing? What are you thinking?
Well, with the James Taylor thing in mind, let's I think Caroline in my mind, because it's a great song for a duet, a male and female vocal. It's perfect. So let's go with that. Let's roll with that. And see
we might fuck it up. We're gonna find out.
Yep. In my mind, I'm gone to Carolina. Can't you see the sunshine? Can't you just feel the moonshine? Ain't it just like a friend of mine to hit me from behind? Yes, I'm gone to Carolina in my mind. Karen, she's the silver sun. Let's walk her away and watch it shine. Watch her watch the morning come. The silver tear appearing now. I'm crying tonight, and I'm gone to Carolina in my mind. There ain't no doubt in no one's mind, love's the finest thing around. Whisper something soft and kind. Hey baby, the sky's on fire, I'm dying tonight, and I'm gone to Carolina in my mind. And in my mind, I'm gone to Carolina. Can't you see the sunshine? Can't you just feel the moonshine? Ain't it just like a friend of mine to hit me from behind? Yes, I'm gone to Carolina in my mind. Dark and silent late last night, think I might have heard the highway calling. Geese in flight and dogs at bite. signs that might be omens say I'm going, and I'm gone to Carolina in my mind, with a holy host of others standing round me. Still I'm on the dark side of the moon, and it seems like it goes on like this forever. You must forgive me if I'm up and gone to Carolina in my mind. And in my mind I'm gone to Carolina. Can't you see the sunshine? Can't you just feel the moonshine? And ain't it just like a friend of mine to hit me from behind? Yes, I'm gone to Carolina in my mind. And I'm gone to Carolina in my mind. And I'm gone. Say nice things about me, and I'm gone. Better carry on without me. Yes, I'm gone southbound. Yes, I'm gone to Carolina in my mind.
Yeah, nice. Killer. Not bad, huh?
That was good.
Pretty good.
That worked. When I was a young child, I was definitely nurtured and coached into it. I was a voice soprano in a choir, which made me very close to God, apparently. That's what I was told. All I knew is we got sweets at Easter time and we sang the masses. But there was never any pressure to do it except for then. I mean, I was conditioned enough to go into a competition. There was a lot of what they call feshkiols, which means basically music competition in Irish.
Wow.
If anybody speaks Irish out there, that's probably wrong. So just go with what I'm saying.
It's a dialect that you're not familiar with. He is correct. You just don't know.
So anyway, but I was put into them, and I was so nervous as a kid. I remember, my memories from childhood are patchy at best, but I remember the feeling of being on stage and just the whole life force just being drained out of me, standing there like a stick of celery, like it was withered, you know, like, I mean.
Well, and how did you, as you got older, how did you get over that?
Well, even in that, like, my voice, from about the age of 6 to 13, my voice broke, and that's a good story of itself. I had time in there to really kind of get used to it. To a point where I won the biggest competition in Ireland at the age of 12. I won the Voice of Ireland.
Wow.
Not to be mistaken from The Voice, the current TV show that's here.
No. The predecessor.
Yeah, it was the first in the 70s. I was in 1982, sorry. The Voice.
I was born that year.
Really? Yes. How old am I? Anyway, so from that, when my voice broke doing a wedding for this couple.
Oh no.
Yeah, totally. I was doing Ave Maria.
Yeah.
And it just went down.
Oh my gosh. So
it.
what did you do?
I kept on croaking, and I really did croak. It was horrible. It was horrible for me because I always felt like, and even to this day, but even then I carried a notion that I want to bring the best of myself, and I'm such a perfectionist.
Yeah, me too.
And when it happened, I was mortified. But at the end of it, when they reluctantly gave me my £40 for the
big
services,
money.
yeah, I ran from that church. Freedom! I was so free from, because I'd been, but like I said, I'd been kind of corralled, for want of a better word, into this. I did enjoy aspects of it, but it also kind of like, I was a 13, 12-year-old boy, a 7 to 13-year-old boy. The last thing I wanted to do was go to choir practice, go to church on Sunday, and do all the masses that were there. So that was the foundation. But it served me, because then that gave me the foundation of the voice. And then I didn't sing until I was like 30 again.
Wow.
The guitar became my full expression.
Well, which is a blessing, because that meant that you actually are a great guitar player, and you have the foundation of singing. Like, I envy people, because I have the vocal foundation, but I'm the laziest instrumental musician in the world, because I've got the Rain Man ears, right? Which means my sight reading is rubbish, and like I just am lazy. Because like when certain musical things come really easy to you, I find that then those things that don't come as easily to you you give up on them really easily because you're like, no, this is supposed to be easy.
That's a good
you know?
point, actually. I wouldn't have known that. I wouldn't have considered that as...
Right. And like I listened to your story, and like it sounds like both your parents, you felt loved and you felt accepted at home. I found a lot of musicians and artists in general that have this...
Let's go with that story.
You know, Ireland, no family trauma at all.
I call the parenting that we got, like, if there was a book, it would be called, I know, Parenting Like the Back of My Hand.
Or the back of...
It would look
right?
like that. No, it was a very interesting growing up. I mean, my parents are good people, no doubt.
Right.
And I love them. But growing up was interesting for sure. I mean, but you know, what we do have in all of our family, my eldest sister, Liz, is an amazing opera singer. She owns her own opera company and runs it.
Yeah.
And everybody else has a talent but didn't really pursue it. But when we all get together at Christmas time or whatever,
it's like amazing.
It's like
amazing.
It all comes out.
I envy that in a certain way. I think it's interesting that with the therapy I have done, what I've learned with all my friends who are compelled musically or compelled artistically in some way to reach some level, and I think this can also come out in different kind of like pursuits. When you feel somewhat conditionally loved in childhood, and you find a skill that gives you praise from your parents and gives you a space to be in, like a safe place to be in, where you know you're going to be accepted and you know you're going to be loved, and where they're going to hold it up above their heads and see, look what our kid can do. You know,
there was definitely an element of that.
It's something that really makes you work your ass off, and it instills in your bones this feeling of my worthiness is attached in some way to this skill set.
Very much so. Very well said, actually. Yeah.
So,
I couldn't have said it better myself, but that actually resonates with me.
Okay. Yeah, just whenever I hear a story of someone who feels free from that compulsion in some way, I wonder what changed. Was it therapy? Was it an inward building that made you go from feeling compelled, like, fuck, I have to make this work because this is my identity and this is how I'm getting love, to more centered and being a fully formed human being? Because that doesn't happen that often in our industry. Most of the time there's a chunk or two missing.
Well, it happens very young as well. I mean, the developmental stages, look at poor old Justin Bieber and people like that. They're like thrust into something that's bigger than anything they know, and everybody who's around them is not around them to nurture them as a human being.
Right.
It's a commodity and monetized thing.
Sure, yeah.
And then they come out and they've no chance.
Totally. Well, and do you ever think that, like, I know for me at 36, I think, and my therapist has said this as well, good thing you didn't get what you wanted at 25. Good thing you didn't, because for me, I wanted to be the thing, right? And I've been called like the next big Canadian voice, the next Celine Dion, all this shit, and it's never come through, right? But I think now I'm like, what would have happened? She's like, you probably would be dead, or you would have a huge addiction.
Oh, I definitely would. I got all that without the fame.
You really are a well-rounded gentleman.
There's a story in a story in a story, like it's like those Russian dolls,
right?
And I'm very forthcoming with it, because I mean, there's nothing to hide at this point. I have 2 feet and a heartbeat, and I'm here,
right?
And really, that's all that matters at this present moment, while we're talking to anybody who's listening there and talking to each other and just getting to know each other a little bit here. You know, I wouldn't have been able to deal with it. I would have been way too fragile. I'm only at this point in my life now where I really feel like an awareness, you know, and definitely if I'd have got sidetracked by any kind of like
fame, fortune,
Venus flytrap sort of effect,
totally,
I wouldn't have survived it.
So a lot of us feel like our only means of creating worth is by building it outside of ourselves. But I feel like we get to a certain age where, and maybe it's because the music thing that we envisioned doesn't happen, and then we go, oh, I really feel like I'm not a full human being, and that leads us to something therapeutic to try to build a new coping mechanism. And have you felt like for yourself, like have you gotten past that point where like the desperation is like at a fever pitch, or has that ever happened for you?
It never really happened in a desperation sense.
Okay.
And so there's always in my mind like that, you know, playing for a big...
Right.
I mean, I played one time in the Commodore Ballroom. We talked about this earlier, and it was the highlight for me, and it was packed, and it was for a convention, but I mean, it was bought out by the. So it's not like I packed out the Commodore, but still, I got a standing ovation at the end of the show,
right?
Because they loved what I was doing. That was great, you know, and that for me was like, holy. I could imagine then why you would want to chase that. It
makes sense to me.
You know, but I never really had it as a sort of a thread throughout my my musical career, I've just done what I did, and I kind of feel like I fell ass backwards into it. So I'm blessed that I do it at all and make a living at it.
Right.
But I never really had that. It was never. I wouldn't have used the word desperation for sure.
Wow.
And like to tag onto that from what you're saying, there's so many layers of validation as a human being. And it means so many different things to so many different people. I mean, I can only tell you that I feel validated now by just sitting here talking to you and doing this. I'm like, you invited me on here. That's validation. You're like, I like your music enough to kind of share this platform. That's what I would see as validation at this point.
I think that sounds so healthy, first of all, so congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that I learned, like, even this channel has grown so slowly, and we have, like 50 people who are watching and who are commenting and who are writing me and being like, thank you.
That's great.
And for me, it's like, yeah, would it be nice to have, 10 million views on every video? Sure it would.
But you're going to invite also there's going to be, when you get to that point, the positivity can kind of leave it, and it's now, when it's viral, there's trolls and there's all kinds of, like,
true.
That side of humanity, like, 10 million, how dare you, I'll show you.
Right, no, you're right.
How dare you get famous, or whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it, right? Is that, like, it's tough because you kind of go, is it okay if I touch the lives of 50 people in a meaningful way? If my music and my voice and my heart are offering something that really affects people and helps them, is it okay for that to be a concentration of 50 instead of touching the surface of people's lives, 1 million people?
Yeah.
Like, is that okay?
I think that sounds more meaningful.
Yeah, maybe.
The 50, the smaller group. I mean, imagine you're it'd be the same thing when you go to a concert. I've gone to concerts that are big, and I feel like, why didn't I just go home?
Watch it on TV.
Put the record at the end of my back garden.
Yeah.
And listen to it.
Totally.
Because I got nothing. I didn't get touched. I didn't get. James Taylor was actually one of the only shows that I got that I felt a real personal touch. It was in Rogers Arena, which is a really big arena.
Mama.
Yeah, and he filled it out, and his stories and his presence is genuine, and he's funny. And then I went to see John Mayer, like, not too long afterwards, and I felt so disconnected. I left halfway through the show. He was good, but there was no connection. So the reason I bring it into that is because it's the same thing. If you have a smaller crowd that are there genuinely to hear your story, I think that's because what we want is connection.
Well, I think,
are you truly connecting to millions of people, or are you just in their face?
Well, I think it's such a lesson to learn, is because what we want is to make a living. Like, even with what you do, which is playing, how many nights a week are you playing?
5.
5 nights a week, how many hours at a time?
On an average of 4.
Okay. So I was pursuing that for a bit, and then I got to the place where I realized that I would rather be a server and be a tour guide, and then have extra creative energy to write and do gigs once a month, twice a month, for 2 hours at a time for a room that really is listening and engaged. Because I just have a different, I don't know, but there was a while that I felt like a failure because I wasn't doing what you're doing, And so I just feel like we're so hard on ourselves. Whereas if you can find a system that works for you, do you find that this work is working for you? This, like, 5 nights a week?
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be a battle of this life versus I want that life over there, or what.
Right, totally.
There's always going to be that. It's like you got a $150 million yacht and then a $300 million yacht passes you. It's always going to be There's always going to be that thing. It seems to be the human condition in this sort of consumerist age on steroids.
Right.
And so
it's
we're
a spiritual
all like,
deficit, really.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think so.
Definitely. I mean, at the end of the Roman Empire came at the most opulence. I mean, it's really, we are crashing and burning. We're not surviving very well here. We're not doing very well. And within each of us is that journey to sort of just settle ourselves into, we are a living human being with this journey, but the journey isn't like, what can I get? It's how can I reach that point where I just feel good where I am.
Well, and what do I have to give? What have I been given that I'm a conduit to give? I think that's the end of anxiety, is instead of thinking, what do I need to attach to myself to build worth, But knowing that you have that worth and coming from a place of power and love instead of a place of fear, that's really the big pivot.
Fear and scarcity.
Right? Yes, so absolutely.
I think that's where it comes from too, is when I see, or when I've experienced this in jealousy. Jealousy is a big one, and the silent competitive nature of musicians.
Totally.
We all talk like, hey, how you doing? But then we see, how much are you working this week? And somebody says, I'm working 50 million gigs. And you're like, there's something inside me drops a little bit. I'm like, wait a second, why? I don't want to do that. You know, but still there's that part of me that is, well, if you're getting that much, then that's less for me.
Yes.
And that's where it comes from.
Well, that is what a high tide lifts all ships. I feel like you can say that, but it's much different when you live in a city like Vancouver, which is kind of soulless in so many ways, and it's so hard on musicians, the city.
I wouldn't agree with that.
You wouldn't agree? Oh, tell me, because I know some people who agree, so I want to hear.
Well, it depends. Again, it depends on where you're coming from in terms of, like, I sing in a different on a different platform than maybe what that opinion would come from. If you're a solo, or if you're an artist that is doing just your own material and you're trying to get that into the forefront, But then again, any town, you could say that about any city. Dublin, where I come from, has a huge number of incredibly talented people, but there's no paid gigs. You're pretty much paid to play in a lot of situations, I think, as far as I could tell from when I go back there at Christmas time and various times. The musicians I see and keep in contact with, you either set up a recording studio or but there's no platform to make money.
Okay,
So it's really, I mean, you would never say Dublin's soulless, but I mean, I wouldn't even say this place is soulless. I would say it just, I don't know what word to substitute for soulless.
Yeah, soulless is a bit hyperbolic, but I would just say for me, I have felt like I've gotten to the cusp so many times in my career where I'm like, this has got to be the thing that puts us over. This contact has got to be the partnership that puts us over. And it just hasn't happened. And in Vancouver, for me, I found that this level, like the huge management, the huge production, it's all here, you know, if you have the money or you have the connections. But as far as like venues and the ability to move things forward, for me, it just hasn't worked out. And that's okay. If it works for other people, great. But I just find that a lot of local people end up leaving and coming back just to play because people don't like paying for music here.
No one likes to pay for music anywhere anymore.
That's true.
I even have Spotify.
You do? Do you pay a monthly thing?
Yep.
Okay, well, it's not as bad.
It's $9.99.
Oh, yeah.
I know. But it's music. Even the music itself, like if you're an original artist, going back to that again, and you're putting your stuff out there, you can put your stuff on iTunes, or why would, and then on a platform like Spotify, and why would anybody go to iTunes and buy your stuff
when they can just go listen to it?
Yeah, and it's so much. I think it was I forget which musician. I think it was either Lou Reed or one of those guys from that kind of generation said music is polluted. There is so much content because that's all of these streaming sites want is content like Netflix or that they're just creating stuff. And how do you find yourself in that mix?
Yeah, it's true. And
it's a pretty to go back to that word, it's a pretty desperate. That can be a desperate situation, I guess. I haven't experienced that myself because that's where I'm afraid to put myself out there.
Really?
Yeah, I haven't put my own original. I've got lots of original material, and I don't really put it out with a lot of gusto.
Is that because you haven't wanted to invest in it financially, or because
I don't know how to?
Okay.
And I've chosen, and it's not because I couldn't learn, but I need to get definitely. And the older you get, the more protective the armor becomes. You know.
Right. Well, the thing is, the nice thing about putting everything up, like you can go through CD Baby, it's pretty easy. And then at a show, you can play one of your originals and say, just so you know, this is available on all platforms. You know, just because I have 2 songs that are super popular at my shows, and they're both up everywhere because they're the most popular songs. And I've learned to not get too attached to my babies. Right. You know, because that'll kill you.
Yeah.
Right? So, I don't know. I think it's an interesting time. I think what it's become, I remember listening to Dax Shepard's podcast. He's like an anthropology major in school. He's an actor now. And talks about how, you know, in our origins, in our history, we lived in communities of about 200. So in that community, you would have by far been the best at what you do. Whatever it is that you do that you're amazing at, you would have been the best at it. You would have been validated by your community, and you would have been the person to look for. Like you would have been the expert.
Right.
Whereas now, with the internet and everything, we're in communities of billions and billions and billions of people. So you never really get to feel like you're necessarily the best. There's always somebody who's potentially better.
Mhm.
And that's kind of soul crushing for those of us who are looking for a home and to find something that we have uniquely to give.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's really interesting.
And that's what I mean by like this, finding your way through that. You're basically feeling like you're going against the current, no matter what you're doing. Even though I pretty much sound as much as commercial as anybody else in the stuff I write. I think I'm original when I'm writing it, and it is original to me. I wrote it, but it sounds like everything you've ever heard before.
Right.
Everybody says, "Oh, that song reminds me of that," and that's why they relate to it, and that's why they love it. Is because it sounds like something that has gone before. Like I've got this song. It's called "Another Love." And it became a flagship song when I released my first album. I did do a bit of push on the first one, and then it was the chords. I was like, why is that one standing out? And then there was that Simply Red song, If You Don't Know Me by Now.
If you don't know me.
And that is exactly
So
what the
good.
song sounds like.
Oh,
it's the same chord structure.
That's so funny.
I can't wait to find another love, one to rise above. And that's how my song goes. But it's pretty the same.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
the same kind of
Yeah.
and it's the same melody, and so
Yeah.
that familiarity is what people want. Like if you're going to sell a movie, you don't go in going, I have a completely original concept. The oxygen gets sucked out of the room right there and then.
Totally.
You have to go, it's a cross between Terminator and
Exactly.
to sell, we're listening,
Yeah.
because they're already thinking, how are we going to invest in something
Yeah,
that's going to
absolutely.
make us a return?
Something that's new, but also totally not new. Yeah. So like, what do you say when they're like, okay, give me your elevator pitch for you as an artist if you wanted to play at my venue or whatever?
I sound like James Taylor.
Yeah.
It's done.
Totally.
One and done.
Right?
I wouldn't actually say that though. I would say I sound like, I mean, even like when I see people put a name to the music like folk pop or, whatever.
Fuck pop. Either one.
I'm so hungover. This
Oh,
is so
see,
unfair.
this is what happens. It's the Irish plague.
It's like totally playing to the stereotype now.
I know.
It's how would you say? That's a good one because I've put a lot of thought into that. What would what would I say? What is me? What is that? Because you got to do it. Elevator pitch is a couple of words at most.
Yeah.
I say soulful folk pop.
How many are you?
With a lot of doubt, right? With
pop,
question
rock,
marks.
good other things.
Pop rocks. No,
Pop
I actually don't
rocks,
have one. He just bursts in your mouth.
Right? Super.
There
funny.
again.
Too much.
What's he doing to you?
Too much. Wow, we've taken a turn. That's perfect.
This is where the editing comes in.
Right?
I wouldn't know how to really. That's the thing. It's like I don't care enough to really put. Like I've thought about it, but I haven't come up with anything.
Right. Yeah, I think I've gotten to the place where I work with this lady named Judy Stakey in LA, and she has given some big frickin' names a start. And so we work together, and she goes, Marla, you're more than just this voice. She's like, yeah, you're a great songwriter, but she goes, you are this. And so it's like, a lot of times it's the thing that you have hidden from and you have felt like it's too much your entire life that becomes the thing that sets you apart once you're okay in your own skin. One more question, and that is, what do you want in your next chapter? What's the goal?
Loaded question. I think what I would like to do is pull back on what I'm doing, on the sheer volume of gigs that I'm doing per month. Because per week, 5 per week, you go, okay. But you only think in the stretch of a week, but that adds up. 5 a week, 20 a month. Actually, I'm doing like 25 a month.
Wow.
So that's a lot.
Wow.
So I want to pull back on that, and really what I want to do and what I want to get the courage back to do is start creating and really put some energy behind my own stuff, because I think I've laid a foundation now in all of the places that I play that has given me a lot of confidence through the feedback that people give to me.
Right.
To really start pursuing Neal Ryan again, as opposed to James Taylor through Neal Ryan.
Right.
Whoever I'm singing, you're bringing all those people back alive again or into the room, and that's great, but they've done pretty well already. I don't need to
help them
buffer their bank account.
Right.
So I would like to concentrate more and put more energy behind what I do and believe in it. And it's my own, and my version of success in that is going out and just doing it. Like there's artists that we discuss sometimes that are in the same field as what I do, and we've discussed some of those guys, and some of them are really doing. They're going out and they're doing videos. It would seem futile to do it, but they're doing these big productions to get one song, flash in the pan. And at one point I would have went, why are you doing that? Why bother? Do you not see the futility of it? Now I go, I see the courage in that.
Yes. Yeah,
I totally see it in a different light, and I applaud it. And I applaud it because I want it for me. There's a little me in there that's going, you see it now. My eyes are open now to that. So that would be the goal at this point. So I am pulling back. June is going to be a very different month in terms of how much I work. And then that day that I'm taking, that extra day where I'm not working, will be a work day, but just a work day for this guy.
Right.
You know.
Smart. But just courageous.
And just do small little things because I run. I've got myself so sussed out in certain areas, but when it comes to really propelling myself into that next stage of development, which would be, you know, songwriting, creative songwriting, but putting it out and saying, here it is, and letting it go.
Right.
No expectations, but really putting some energy behind it, and not being afraid of it anymore. Because that's
brave.
Because that's another thing we talked about, family. And in my family, all my family are super talented, but never once have broken or breached anything past their own front doorstep. Wow. We always started something in our family and then never finished it for fear of actual success.
Wow. What do you think? Where does that come from?
Oh, it's down the lineage. It's down the line. It's a legacy. And I guess we could say that our parents. What a weird construct in a way. You're born and here's a name and a religion, and go ahead and don't disappoint us, or whatever, you know. And then you build your kind of like whole self around that. I am Neal, Catholic.
I am this.
I don't know what that means really anymore. I respect it, but I don't know anything about it in my own personal life. And then you build around that from all the voices that are coming from your parents and all the ideas, and you hear conversations like my mum and dad they have very particular views politically and religiously, and I didn't realize how much of them I was talking until I start catching myself. I'll say something, I'm like, whose voice is that? Yeah, that's mine. Say that.
Yes.
Like particularly if it's an argument, and suddenly I find myself just wanting to win, and it becomes like orations, not like a conversation. And I think with watching them and the way they have developed or not developed is a platform for how we are, and then it's our journey to try and break free and become the uniqueness of the human being that we can achieve. Yeah. And that's a really difficult journey. Some people get stuck into that. They grow older and they play the roles, you know.
Well, and what has been modeled for you, at least for me, I know that hasn't been modeled for me, but I'm in the same boat that you are, and that I'm like, okay, so I am choosing to try to evolve, to try to read as much as I can and learn as much as I can. And whatever it is that's making my ego trigger or making me live out of fear, I really want to figure that stuff out. And yeah, it's a slog. It's brutal. It's so tough. But you realize what's the alternative is to collapse back into those old patterns and to just live in victimhood or in anger or in lack, scarcity for your life, right? And I feel like there is a pivotal point where you have a choice of whether to expand in courage or to just stay as you are and be comfortable. But there's no and after that I feel like it's tough to go back, right? I feel like, because I look at it's tough.
Going back would be something like a trauma response or something like that, you know. Yeah, but you picked up one of the words I picked up on there, because I wasn't listening to anything else you said.
That's fair.
Was comfort, and that's another aspect of it. Like, I am comfortable, and there's a very famous saxophone player, Branford Marsalis, and one of his quotes. He's a very arrogant, egotistical guy, like in that music realm of jazz and stuff like that. But he would say, brilliant saxophonist, by the way, but I didn't mean to kind of totally.
I don't think
make
he
that
watches
sound.
this channel.
Yeah. If you're listening, Branford, I'm really sorry, but what you said was really good. He said, comfort is the worst enemy of creativity.
I agree completely.
If you have everything a kilometer radius from your house, you're not going to be creative. David Bowie said something similar. You have to be just about that point under the water, drowning just a little bit to get to that real stuff when you're creating the real stuff.
Right. Well, isn't that funny? Because I think about sometimes about how living like in the first world, having enough money, having a place to live, being who I am, born where I am in my circumstances, on one hand, it gives me the luxury of evolution in this almost navel gazing, okay, I have the time to figure out my shit, right? Figure out my trauma in a way that my great-grandparents, who were barely surviving on a physical level, didn't have the luxury of thinking that way. They just had to get on with it.
Yeah.
But the other side of that coin is that, you can get comfortable and then you don't use that time in the way that you maybe would.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly it.
I think it's so interesting. And I mean, I hear you. Like, I feel so blessed to just have the tools in my intellectual and emotional toolbox to be able to delve deeper into this, which is a luxury.
It's definitely is a luxury. I mean, where you got it from, I mean, that's the biggest blessing, to have that articulation, that fluency of that emotional language, so you can understand both yourself and your reactions to the world, you know, and that's really all we have is our reactions to the world, and be able to self-soothe and self-regulate at any particular time when we feel like, you know, some people hit the bottle, some people hit harder stuff, you know, and I've gone down that road and I know what that looks like and feels like, you know. Last night, no.
He's really reformed since last night. You are a shining example, sir.
I'm definitely shining.
I mean,
it's all sweating out my pores.
So funny.
I think, and that's another part of the goal, is to be courageous enough to get past the comfort and into the mire, and basically just really challenge myself. I am at my absolute best, and I know it when I'm struggling.
Yeah.
And I don't mean an artistic struggle.
That's the most Irish thing I've ever heard.
Well, when things, I guess you could kind of put it in that context. But it is true. It's like when things are easy, I'm lazy brained.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, there's nothing that brings evolution like something like adversity, right? There's nothing that'll teach you a lesson like being taught a lesson.
Yeah.
Right? So like for me, that's the reason that I'm leaving Vancouver, right? I won't, like this time next year, I hope to be in Toronto, not because I'm like dying to be in Toronto, but because I'm like, it feels like the next logical step for me to grow into.
Yeah.
Right? Like what are the hermit crabs that they like go into a shell and then they feel like they outgrow it. And I feel like for me, I can see what Vancouver has to offer for me, and I just need more. I need more expansion in these certain areas, you know, just for me. And that's exciting to me and intimidating, because again, you're putting yourself up against this and this and this on a much even larger scale and seeing if you measure up.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm like, bring it the fuck on. Bring it on. Because I would rather know. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know from what you're saying, I don't know in myself, because I haven't got to that point yet where I really want to challenge myself. I mean, I often fantasize about going to places like the South by Southwest in Austin, Texas, or going to New York and really putting myself into the clubs there and really seeing where I stand. I honestly think I'd shape up pretty well if I could just find my feet. But it'd be like not crippling myself with my own mind before I even stepped in the door.
Yeah.
And that's where the challenge with life for me is, because when I've played on bigger platforms, my guitar playing, like I've played this instrument for 20 years and suddenly it's this big and like this wide, and I'm like, how do I do this again?
Yeah.
You know, it's the same nerves I got when I told you about when I was a child entering the competitions.
Yeah.
When I'm in comfort, I'm fine in the hotels or whatever corporate thing is, you know, because I'm so used to being background. And that's easy. Anybody can really learn that and stay within that confine.
Right.
But then to leave that and suddenly have people like, okay, tell us and show us who you are.
Yeah, totally.
Pants
off. You have one chance. Right. Absolutely. But I know the feeling of like I went to Nashville for a year. I lived in Nashville. Oh, cool. And it was like, it was great, but it was also like walking into a wood chipper of talent. I don't know if you can tell I'm a songwriter.
It's pretty violent.
I have a way with words. But truly, because every barista, I'm going to turn this a little bit, because you're not on this enough. There. But truly, because every barista is a songwriter, and if you want to trial by fire, whether you're a good singer-songwriter, go and do the open mic at the Bluebird.
I've heard that.
And you'll know.
Yeah.
You'll know. That song I was singing to you earlier, After the Butterflies, I sang that at the Bluebird, and everything went actually great. But it was one of those things, I was ready, I was bracing for impact, because it is, like, it's, you know, the guy who wrote The Gambler is sitting there, and like all these crazy songwriters, and I'm like, I want to know. Because you know what happens is that I get to the brink of something happening and it doesn't happen. And in my mind, I'm going to Carolina, no. And in my mind, I'm like, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was.
That's the biggest fear that I would have too, yeah.
And then you perform, and they validate that no, you are really special at what you do.
Or you're not.
Or you're not.
Which is just
but
as
if
good.
If you are, it's almost more frustrating because you go, well, then what the fuck? Why am I not moving forward in the way that I should be, right?
This is we're just like running into a brick wall here with this one.
Right.
I have to tell you a story if I can interrupt at that point.
Of course.
There's that point of it. Like, I think it's almost better to go into that environment and really fuck up.
Right.
Seriously, and
I agree.
Because that will let you know if you're going to stoke the fires underneath you and go. You leave that stage and your tail is firmly between your legs, and you're like, for a couple of minutes, you're, you know, just marinating in just desperate and horrible feeling, you know. And then something happens and you go, I am going to come back here and tear this room apart.
Yes.
This happened to me. It was one of my first experiences here in Vancouver. The Yale. Remember the Yale Blues Bar?
No, but...
It's an old blues bar. It's now just a hotel and a country bar. A lot of young people. It used to be the premier blues bar on Granville Street, just before the Granville Bridge, on Granville and Drake. And all the best of the best blues guys came through there. And they had a Sunday night blues jam. And this is 20 years ago, I was kind of okay on the electric guitar, and so I was practicing, and I thought, you know, I'm good enough. I think I'm going to go, and I'm going to sign up for that jam. And what happened is you go there, you sign up, and you get paired together as a band. So it's piecemeal. You get a drummer, bass player, vocalist. Everybody signs up as what they are, and then he'll put a band together. You've got to be good for this Sunday night. So I taught myself up, like way beyond my means. There was no way I was this good, but I really did a good job because 7 o'clock it started, and I thought he'd put me up at 7:30 because I'm unknown to him. And 7 comes around, the first band comes up. 7, I'm drinking, and 7:30, 8, 8:30.
I'm still drinking.
I'm so nervous.
Oh no!
I'm dying. You know what? Fair play to me. I stayed there. I stayed in the place. I could have run,
right.
But I didn't. Now the dance floor is packed. Like, it's a full-on, bona fide blues night. Sunday night, doesn't matter. People are out and the dance floor is hopping. 10 o'clock, and Neal Ryan. I'm like,
fuck.
So I walk up like I'm walking through the Green Mile. Dong.
Right.
So I get on stage, and little did I know, the guys, the big Fender dual twin amps. I mean, these are powerful models, right? The guy before me, by the way, the players before me,
amazing.
From the start to that point, were killer.
Amazing.
And I got up, and all his settings were up to 10. He was one of those guys who could totally play with volume and get so much texture out of it. Yeah. So I didn't know this. So the guy starts, he goes, okay, it's the Chicago Blues, whatever, 4/4 time. Start the song, and they start this Chicago Blues song, easy in A. I'm like, I know the chords, so I'm like, I got this big old like pretendy smile. I'm like, I'm dying. And then the sound guy is doing this to me, like, and he's going, because I'm way too loud. I'm louder than the whole band. Yeah. Because the amp is up at 10, and I'm just basically trashing the guitar in my kind of like very beginner amateur way.
Oh my gosh.
And he runs up on stage, turns me down. Now I'm completely, like, I was dead before, now I'm beyond dead. I'm like in the purgatory stages of like, and I'm like, and the guy throws me a solo, the singer. So they're oblivious to what's happening because they're all in their own element, right? And the guy throws me a solo, and my fingers go right under the strings. They just go under, clank, and they just get caught. My fingers.
How did you know that was possible?
On an electric guitar, I play 9 strings, and my fingers just go under the strings.
Oh my gosh.
I'm so nervous. Anyway, I managed to pull out a few notes. There's still 2 more songs left.
Amazing.
You know. Anyway, the point being, I left that stage really, really embarrassed. But I left the club going, I am going to go and I'm going to practice and I'm going to practice. And that's how I knew at least a little bit that I was going to do this in some capacity for the rest of my life.
Oof.
Because I bounced back right then and there, and I was like, I was mad at myself. The competition in me started.
Yes.
And I was like, I'm going to go and I'm going to blow all those guys away.
Yeah.
They didn't care.
Right.
I was forgotten about it. The minute I left the
compulsion.
stage, I just, that's when that hit me.
compulsion that all of us have. Like I've had so many, I remember teaching opera and having kids, moms come to me and say, help my little daughter be in music. What can she do to be in music?
Right.
And I said, if she can be a nurse, she should be a nurse. Because honestly, if you have any other choice, you won't do it. Because of what you're talking about. It's that voice in your head that is your best friend and your worst enemy. And for me, my idol when I was in like 4th grade was my music teacher, Mrs. Stewart. And then she hired me for this benefit she was putting on in my hometown. And she wanted me to sing You Raise Me Up.
Josh Groban's.
Grosh Jobin.
Grosh. Did I say that?
Almost. It's fine. And I'm the type of person where like I fucked up once in 2nd grade singing a harmony and I recall exactly what it was to this day. Like I'm very hard on myself.
It's amazing, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if it was me or it was my love Dale, pianist, who messed up the key change. And someone didn't modulate and it was a catastrophe. And you're right in that everybody was like, oh, sweet Jesus, this is terrible, right? And I just beat myself up for months and months and months. But I think there's twofold after that kind of fuck up is that, first of all, you kind of go, yes, I'm gonna fix this and I'm gonna kill it. So when I met Josh Groban last year, I told him, because I just met him in Starbucks in Nashville and just walked up to him and I said, the only fuck up I've had in the last 30 years of my life was You Raise Me Up. So thanks a lot.
How do you respond to that? Like,
he's got a great sense of humor. So he was just like, he goes, what happened? And I said, somebody didn't modulate. It was a catastrophe. And he goes, well, when I sing it tonight he was in Nashville and at the arena, he's like, I'll send you good juju and release you from the.
No, that's nice.
Right. And so like, so something cute came out of it, but also I think, yeah, it can make you come back and like have more chutzpah, but also when you fuck up and you have to reevaluate, is this what I want to do with my life? It's going to send you in one of 2 directions and both of them are good for you, right? Either you're going to like sack up and go again, or you're going to go, it's not the direction I want to go in, and you'll mourn it and you'll find something else, or you'll marry something else with it and it'll evolve into a new incarnation. But every fuck up is you kind of shedding a skin so that you can move on into a different chapter, right? And so as much as we feel like we've lost something, yeah, we've lost something, but it's something that we didn't need and something that we're able to then move away from and kind of slough off like extra weight, right? And I feel like that's what it is. When I look at all of the times that I've really made mistakes, you've had the choice of making it an ego thing. I'm better than this, or being like, okay, is there a part of this that I can let go of so that I can evolve and add something else to it and be someone else?
Letting go is exactly that. It's a process of letting go.
Yeah.
And I would like to give a piece of advice. I don't know if people watch this who are beginners and are looking for some inspiration to that first time you perform. Don't wait till you're perfect. That's really it, because you're going to mess up so bad. You're going to do an open mic and the sound's going to be rubbish and people won't be paying attention and all these factors will be everything in your world, and you don't know how your head and your emotions are going to respond until that moment. So practicing in your bedroom is a very good thing to do, but don't wait till that moment where you think I've got to be perfect. It won't happen. You won't be perfect. You never will.
I have that problem. I don't ever want to play guitar in public because I'm so shitty at guitar.
But that's the only way you're going to learn.
I know that too. And that's the same as when I had voice. That's such good advice. That's such good advice. I would have, when I used to teach voice lessons, my students never practiced until recital time, right? That's the lesson. Until there is some kind of social capital to be lost, you're not going to practice. So set up a gig a month from now and get your ass in gear, whether it's, like you say, just a open mic or something you feel like is more substantial. You're probably going to fuck it up, but so what? What I learned.
Embrace the fuck up.
Yeah, embrace the fuck up, and realize that most people, maybe not me, because I can be not the best at this, but most people who are watching you are willing you to succeed, not to fail. So it's not like everyone's watching you like, I bet this is gonna suck. They're like hoping to have a great experience.
Even though their face will tell a different story.
Right,
Because what you see is this.
What is gonna
judgment
happen?
or whatever.
Yes.
You don't see because I mean it's just blank faces. It's just,
right.
But you'll read what you want to read into it.
Yeah.
And again, you can't do anything to buffer that. You can't do anything to kind of shed light on that experience because you're in the net. Another good point of it is you'll be so in the present moment in your fuck-ups.
Yeah, totally.
Life becomes very automated and goes into that part of the brain,
Totally.
the ganglia, something, that part of the brain. When you are so attuned to something and then you just know how to do it, eyes closed, whatever the expression would be. And I thought I turned this off. Let me just turn this off.
You're saying that part of the brain?
That part of the brain, that basically, when you learn, for example, how to drive, which I just did learn how to drive a year and a half ago.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I'm probably a better driver in my learning stages than most people on the road because they're just going on automatic. They know they're looking at their phones. I see it all the time. And I'm a defensive driver and I've got a 360 peripheral. Like, you know, the whole road. I can see what's happening and I'm very cautious of every time. When you start to play the guitar, you're conscious because of the pain in your fingers. You're really there. You're like, this really sucks. And that's, again, how you know you want to do it. And then you get on stage for that first time. You get the cojones to get up on stage and play your first open mic or whatever iteration of experience that you're going to experience. And you are so in that present moment. And I tell people that whenever they start anything, like starting a job or whatever, embrace that fear that you feel because that is the most present in that kind of environment you're going to feel. And I could give myself the same advice actually because we were talking earlier about like propelling ourselves into different worlds to challenge ourselves. And that's what we want. We want that feeling again. It's not just a feeling of like, it's not a feeling of fear, it's a feeling of really being in a present moment.
Yeah.
There is no, now your playbook is out the window. It's not like comfortable Neal Ryan who can own a hotel lobby. That's not hard to do, but it's you know, you're really telling your story and putting yourself out there.
I think that's good. It's tough. If we can learn to operate from a place of love and power instead of scarcity, I think that's everything. It's music, it's everything you're doing in your life if you have a different kind of job. And it's learning to be grateful for what you already have instead of feeling like your identity and your worth lies out here somewhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Because you'll never arrive there.
Right.
That's like living for a moment that's constantly on the horizon and you're constantly chasing it. Where are you in that? You're in a slingshot of time. It's like saying, I'm looking forward to this thing next week. You're already there next week. Your mind is already next week.
I know. Where are you now?
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like I just run my rent eviction. I should be able to sit in that right now instead of being like, Samia. So you're going to play something for us, some original?
I was actually I had a totally different one in mind than the one I'm actually going to play.
Great.
And I'm going to embrace all of the conversation that we've had today and do something I haven't done in years, which is a song I haven't done in years. And it actually encapsulates me leaving, the song is about me leaving Dublin and wanting to get away to feel a broader sense of myself and really to start kind of like filling up this vessel with experience of my own.
Amazing.
So, and it's called Bigger Men. Screaming blue murder deep, deep down, buried for years I can't remember. How long have I been around? How long since I looked up from the ground? I know, it seems like forever since I've been the bigger man, the better man, to know who I am. I am, be where I am, and I know I can. I know I can. Town of mine, where I made my mistakes, learned to keep my head down no matter what it takes. But I was screaming inside at the thought I'm giving in. Just being myself was a mortal sin. Instead of being the bigger man, the better man, to know who I am, to be where I am, and I know I can. The bigger man, the better man, to know who I am, to be where I am, and I know I can. They took me away, gave me a voice to say, that's where I am now. That's how I can allow, yeah. Oh, bigger man, the better man, to know who I am, to be where I am, and I know I can. The bigger man, the better man, to know who I am, to be where I am, and I know I can. The bigger man, the better man, to know who I am, to be where I am, and I know I can. The bigger man, the better man, to know who I am, to be where I am, and I know I can. I know I can. Thank you. And again, every part of me wants to do that again and like keep rehearsing, because I'm like, I felt so sketchy playing that. I was like, are you really going to do this? So to the point that we made earlier on about taking a chance and just doing something.
Yeah, and the beauty of the imperfection.
Absolutely, that was full of everything, every mistake I could have made, and I'm like, that's good enough.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you. This has been awesome. It's been a really cool experience. Really enjoyed it.
Good. Me too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Thursdays at the Waterfront. Where else can they see you?
Any hotel.
Any hotel, anytime. Just ask for Neal.
Yeah.
He'll be there within the next 48 hours. So thank you for watching Funny Talented Nobodies. If you're into the content, please like and subscribe and ring the little bell. Yeah, we'll be back with somebody else at some point. But for now, what a great heart conversation this was.
Yeah, really good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you.
God bless.
Bye.